Still Standing, a dramatic monologue by Angelo. I remember the moment I realized I wasn't coming back. It wasn't instant. The explosion, the fire, the screaming, it was all too fast, too loud. But when the dust settled, when the world slowed to a whisper and I tried to move, nothing responded. Panic didn't even describe it. It was horror. Pure, primal horror. The body that had carried me through every battlefield, every test, every damn near impossible situation, had betrayed me. I tried to sit up, my hands wouldn't obey. I tried to stand, my legs were gone, my arms, useless. I was weightless and anchored all at once, trapped inside a shell I could not control. And then came the voices. Doctors, medics, my brothers in arms. Their words collided with my own rising scream. Quadriplegic. A word that hangs in the air like a noose. A sentence I hadn't earned, hadn't committed, but had been delivered anyway. I wasn't a soldier anymore. I wasn't a man in the way I understood it. Dependent. Fragile. Visible in ways I had fought to avoid my entire life. The first days of recovery were hell. Every breath, every twitch, every attempt to move was punishment. Pain isn't just in the body, it's in the mind. Every nerve fires with rage, confusion, grief. The pain of being trapped inside yourself is worse than anything I had faced in combat. I screamed. I cried. I begged for death to be an option because life like this wasn't living. It was a cage. And yet there were people, caregivers, medics, my family, who refused to let me surrender. I hated them. I hated myself. I hated the world that had allowed this. Every moment was a reminder. Independence stolen, dignity questioned, identity erased. The mirror mocked me. I didn't recognize the reflection. A man who had carried everything on his own now needed help to breathe, to eat, to sit upright. The hospital room became a prison of silence and whispered instructions. Move this finger, squeeze my hand, breathe deeply. Each tiny movement, a monumental victory. Every adaptation, a bitter reminder of what had been lost. I learned dependence the hard way. I learned humiliation. I learned the slow, grinding work of reclaiming any ounce of autonomy. Showering became a strategy. Eating a victory. Communicating an achievement. And through it all, the dark thoughts followed. Will my wife still love me like this? Will my family see me as their son, their brother, their man, or as a shell of who I once was? Will I ever feel pride again, or only despair? Rehabilitation was warfare of a different kind. I fought the weakness in my body. I fought despair in my mind. I fought time itself. Every day was a battle, and some days I lost spectacularly. There were nights when I'd wake soaked in sweat, unable to move, thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe this is the end of me. Maybe my life was only as long as my ability to act, to carry, to run, and now that's gone. But there were sparks of defiance, too. A single twitch of a finger. The first time I rolled myself from bed to wheelchair. The first time I typed a sentence on a computer. The first time I spoke, and my words were clear, and my mind proved it could still fight. Those moments were stolen from me, yes, but they were mine. And in them, I found the truth. Identity isn't in muscles. It isn't in action. It's in will, in defiance, in the refusal to surrender even when the world has taken everything. After September 11th, something inside me shifted again. I had already survived the war within me, the war outside me, and now the world changed in a flash. I saw smoke, falling buildings on screens, chaos and panic everywhere, and a rage rose that was almost animal. Even in this body, this cage of flesh that refused to obey, I felt the old soldier ignite. I remembered what it was to carry others, to protect them, to stand between the world and the people I loved. Even if I couldn't run, even if I couldn't lift, my mind, my strategy, my will still moved. I would find a way to serve. I would find a way to protect. I spent hours studying, planning, learning, not on the battlefield anymore, but in the home, the streets, the neighborhoods, the family, the friends who relied on me. Every alarm, every threat, every news story, I analyzed like a mission. Every small task of defense became monumental, ensuring my house was safe, my family knew what to do in an emergency, my friends could count on me for guidance, advice, a plan. It was dark work, not heroic, not glorious. No one applauded me when I rewrote the family emergency plan for hurricanes, fires, or who knows, the next attack. But it mattered. It mattered to me, and it mattered to them. Some nights I would sit in my wheelchair, staring at the ceiling, and realize how much I had wanted to fight again. Not because I loved war, but because action was all I knew. And when you're trapped in a body that won't obey, strategy, planning, anticipation, it becomes the weapon you have left. I became the eyes, the mind, the heart of protection. I became a quiet guardian, invisible perhaps, but vital. And yet, the darkness came back. The guilt for surviving when others hadn't. The frustration that my body could no longer act directly. The knowledge that despite my preparation, I could never fully control the chaos outside, only the measures I could implement. I wanted to feel pride again. I wanted to feel power, even in this body that had betrayed me. I called friends, checked on neighbors, helped guide families through fire drills and security protocols. I taught my kids, my nieces and nephews, the value of preparation, awareness, self-reliance. I became a different kind of soldier, a soldier of home, of family, of community. It wasn't easy. Every small task carried weight. Every moment of independence I regained, every plan I successfully implemented, felt like reclaiming pieces of myself. Because even broken, even dependent, even confined, I was part of something that mattered. I was part of a unit, a family, a purpose, bigger than myself. And that gave me strength I had never known before. Even in the darkest depression, in the quiet despair, there were glimpses of hope. A small victory, moving my hand without help. A tiny independence, controlling my wheelchair alone for the first time at home. A conversation where I felt heard. And each of those glimpses slowly began to stitch me back together. Not as the man I was before the injury, but as a man who had survived the ultimate betrayal of his own body and lived to reclaim something of himself. I can still see their faces even now. My family, mostly academics, scholars, bookish, cautious, people who measured risk in papers and probability, not explosions and bullets. They didn't understand me. They didn't understand the fire in my chest, the drive that wouldn't let me sit quietly behind a desk while the world burned somewhere else. When I told them I was joining the military, I thought they'd cheer, or at least nod with pride. Instead, silence. My mother's lips pressed together, eyes tight, and she said nothing at first. My father frowned, a careful, measured frown, one that weighed like 1,000 lectures unsaid. My siblings looked at me as if I'd grown another head. "You know the risks, right?" my mother finally said. "I know the consequences," I said. "And the consequences?" she pressed, her voice tight with fear. "Life and death," I replied. "Exactly," she said, turning away. And then there was her, my girlfriend, my anchor, my chaos, my reason to breathe. She looked at me, really looked at me, when I told her I was enlisting. Her eyes were wide, not with excitement, but with sorrow. "Do you know what you're signing up for?" she asked, almost whispering. "Yes," I said. "No. Do you really?" "Yes. You'll be gone for months, years. You might not come back. You might come back and not be the same." "I know," I said, and I did. But what I didn't know yet was how the body could betray me so completely, how the world could twist my bravery into helplessness. She accepted it. Somehow, impossibly, she accepted it. Not blindly, not without fear, but with faith in me and in us. Faith that whatever happened, we would survive it together. And for that, I loved her more than I could ever speak. Coming home, that was when the real war began. At the hospital, you learn to survive. You learn to obey, to endure, to breathe on cue, to follow instructions like a soldier in training, but with a body that refuses to comply. There, pain is structured. There, someone else has a plan. There, even helplessness has a rhythm. But home was chaos. I arrived in a house that should have been mine, that I had built my life around. But suddenly, every corner was a reminder. I could not move as I wanted. I could not lift, carry, cook, walk, drive, even dress myself. My independence, the very thing I had fought for all my life, was stripped away like skin from a body. And with that came the depression. A deep, crawling despair that no one saw, no one understood. My family, my mother, my father, my siblings, they tried. They cleaned, helped, managed schedules, reminders, therapies. They hovered like angels, and yet they could not touch the black pit that had opened inside me. And then there was him, my son, just 3 years old when the world tore my body from me. I'll never forget the day he came to see me in the hospital. Tiny hands, big eyes, uncomprehending, yet somehow understanding, somehow knowing that the man he had always looked up to was not the same. He didn't flinch, he didn't cry, he smiled. He climbed into my lap. Well, someone helped him, of course, and leaned against me. And in that small, unassuming gesture, I felt something I hadn't in months. Hope. Purpose. He became my reason to endure, my reason to fight against the depression, the frustration, the helplessness. Even when I couldn't move, couldn't act, couldn't reclaim the body that had once defined me, he gave me a mission I could not fail. Every morning, his laughter, his questions, the way he ran to me for stories or guidance, reminded me that life was bigger than my despair. That love, even in its smallest, most innocent forms, could be stronger than any injury, any loss. He became my anchor when the world spun too fast, my motivation when therapy felt endless, my saving grace when depression threatened to swallow me whole. And watching him grow, watching him learn, stumble, succeed, I realized something profound. I had a new battlefield, one that mattered more than any war I had fought overseas, one where I could protect, guide, and shape a life, even from this body that refused to obey me. Even in the darkest night, even in the body betrayed, even in the depths of despair, we find light where we least expect it. We find meaning in the eyes of those we love, and we find purpose in being their protector, their guide, their saving grace. Even broken, even dependent, even confined, I was still standing, still, and I will keep standing.